You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Dankman. Getting a green card is a big moment. It's the last step before an immigrant becomes a U.S. citizen. The process for obtaining a green card has become more confusing in recent weeks. Last month, the Trump administration sent out a memo that said green card applicants inside the U.S. would need to leave the country and apply from their home country. The change would have affected tens of thousands of Washington residents, some of whom have waited years to complete that step. But then, the week following that announcement, the Trump administration appeared to partially walk back the change. The Department of Homeland Security told the New York Times that the memo was just a reminder that it's up to individual immigration officers to decide whether people should apply from their own country or from within the United States. The back-to-back announcements panicked many hoping to get their green cards, and there's still a lot of unanswered questions. For more on what is going on and how it could affect immigrants in the Seattle area, Tahmina Watson joins me now. She is the founding immigration attorney of Watson Immigration Law in Seattle. Tahmina, always good to have you here. Welcome back to Soundside. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Libby.
So what do we know now about what the requirements are for applying to a green card? What are you actually seeing right now with your clients?
Well, thank you, Libby. It's interesting because after that announcement, nothing from the policy has changed since. What has happened is the chilling effect of what do people do. And to remind people, the law allows people to get green cards while in the United States. So just a little 101, when somebody applies for a green card, they can be outside the US or they can be inside the US. And there are processes and procedures for each of those. The law allowed adjustment of status in the United States because it was convenient for those who were sponsoring, employers particularly, but also to keep families united. And that has been going on for over 50 years, probably 70 years. That has been the policy, that has been the law. And what is changing now is whether people should apply or not. Since the last time we spoke and the administration had walked back some of what they had said, the policy memo itself was not walked back on. It was an unknown person who essentially said, oh, wait, some of these people may not have to leave. And as a result of that, the public discussion has somewhat quietened, but the behind the scenes of actions from lawyers and their clients and the public who have to file, the confusion is ever more.
So we've had this initial announcement that there was this big change to how people were going to be able to make that last step, the change of status request before they get a green card. They were going to have to go to their home country. Then we heard, well, maybe not. But the official memo has not been rescinded that, says, besides some outstanding circumstances, you'll have to go to your home country. So I've heard from you that it just feels like people are in limbo. What does that mean in terms of the calls you're getting from your clients? Like, how are they feeling right now?
Clients are feeling pretty scared and confused. One particular example is that when parents come to the United States and there are some family tragedies. For example, one parent passes away and another, is now alone. Often U.S. citizen children, naturalized U.S. citizen children will want to sponsor them to keep them here. But they come on a tourist visa often, and that tourist visa does not last the entire time that the green card process takes. And that status not lasting is now a huge consideration, which is also a consideration for those who are sort of laid off because they don't have status. So the not having status, or what is maintaining status, now actually has a spotlight in these types of applications where you didn't have to necessarily worry about that so much as long as you entered legally and you didn't have the intent to stay here. And so the confusion and the fear has definitely caused a lot of stress in lives. People are wondering what to do. Some people have left the United States when they haven't been able to maintain status in this situation, and wondering, do I get the green card here or not? So a lot of confusion, essentially. And the question that we get as lawyers is, what should I do? And the risks are just so much higher that there's no way to say this is better than the other.
It must be hard then to give advice at all. I mean, even with your years of working in these issues, when the ground is shifting under you all the time, it must be so difficult to reassure clients because you don't know what tomorrow might bring.
Exactly. And that unfortunately is happening across the board in many different types of immigration issues. But there's $100,000, riding on an H-1B these days. And that was just appealed on Friday. And this daily stressor of what are we doing? Are we going left or are we going right? Whether it's a green card or an H-1B or a different type of case, the stress that not just immigration lawyers, but the clients are facing is unprecedented and challenging. And businesses truly do have a role to play here, because if employers have spent $15,000 to $20,000 on their best employees and the employees that are making such a big difference, I hope businesses will speak up to say this is not working for our business and our bottom line, and we're serving the American public.
Predictability is so important in business, and we hear that again and again. You just need to know what the ground rules are, and then they can plan ahead and they can make decisions. And when things change, it's absolutely the worst for planning ahead. How expensive is the process generally when somebody goes through this? And you mentioned some reasons why you would want to be in the country when you file for a change of status. Can you give us a sense of that? What is it like for somebody, kind of the 101, like you said?
I'll ask people to think of two big buckets in the immigration system. There's the employment bucket, and then there's the family-based immigration bucket. There are some others, but those are the two main ones. In the employment bucket, the employer has to sponsor the employee. So let's just take Microsoft as an example, since they're here, easy to roll off the tongue. It takes easily 2 to 3 years for the process to get to the point where somebody could file a green card application. But that consideration is also impacted by where somebody is born. If somebody is born in India or China or Philippines, they might be waiting for a decade even to get to the point where they will be filing for the adjustment of status. So the employer can do all of the things they need to do, which may take 2 or 3 years, sometimes four. It might have cost them already $15,000 to get to the point where somebody is now in a line. You've probably heard about the line. There's no physical line, but it's how you get to the point of filing the green card application. That timeline is really important. And I will say the economy is having an effect in that particular time for some. And then when they file the green card application, they're here, they have children probably in school, they have a house, they have a job that really needs them in the United States. So suddenly to say you have to adjust outside the US is not an easy thing for anybody to do. Now, let's say they say, okay, well, let's go to the consulate. The consulates, if you remember, early in 2025 had a huge budget cut. They were already lacking in resources, and they have even fewer resources now. So visa applications, visa appointments already take a very, very long time. So if this person who will now get a green card outside the country is probably going to be waiting for years before they can come back. So it is not easy. And this is for a quote unquote easy case. Now, if you have complications, like somebody has now been laid off, they have not been able to maintain status. And so in that gap, particularly, they have not maintained status. You leave the country, you now have a ban from coming back. And if you take the other bucket of people, family-based bucket, and they have come to the United States, for whatever reason, they may not have maintained status. Getting married and getting a green card through your US citizen spouse has long been permitted. It is still permitted. But if you leave the country, you now have a ban from coming back. It's often a 3-year ban or a 10-year ban. And so suddenly these people will not be able to come back, and you have now separated families.
So prior to the walkback, the Department of Homeland Security defended the policy of making people apply from their home country. And part of the statement in which they defended the policy change said, quote, "The president is continuing to prioritize immigration that strengthens America culturally, socially, and financially while preventing mass third world migration, which hurts our country and Americans." How does that jive with your experience working with applicants for green cards in the Puget Sound area?
We're in an interesting time in history where the world is coming to Seattle, the world is coming to America, and America has always been a melting pot. Immigrants were part of creating the railroads that connected East Coast to the West Coast. If you think about the first trillionaire in the world, an immigrant who's created so many jobs. Immigrants are part of our local area. If you look at the Fortune 500 companies, a lot of them are either created by immigrants or immigrants' children. And I think the statistics is 51% of them are either immigrants or immigrant children of immigrants. So immigrants are so important to the fabric of America. It's really important to acknowledge that. And I think culturally and economically, immigrants are important because they are contributing to the jobs, to every industry, innovation, education, medicine. If you think about the COVID vaccine, one of the founders was an immigrant who pulled us through one of the most scariest times of humanity. And so I think it's important to recognize that immigrants are important for America and the world.
Did you ever think in this line of work that you would have to make that case?
I fell into immigration by accident, and I went into it kicking and screaming. I don't know if I ever told you this story.
No, you
But the
didn't.
first day of immigration that I practicing law, I suddenly felt, why am I fighting this? This is everything I wanted to do. I'm helping people's dreams come true. And the dreams are not just immigrant dreams. These are American dreams that people aspire to. One of my specialties, so to speak, is to work with startup founders. And I have realized that the founders are often immigrants, but founders are often native born Americans who are having their first hire and they don't know how to get that assistance because we are lacking the talent in this country. And so the first day I thought, wow, I was fighting this subject matter for a good year before I said yes to immigration. And I'm so grateful I get to do this because I can see the difference that my clients make on a very daily basis to their own lives, to their communities, whether it's a school, small town, but a country as a whole. And I feel very grateful every day that I do this. But no, I would not have thought that this is an argument I'd have to make.
There is another thing you've been up to recently, besides just working with your regular clients, Tahmina. You co-founded the Airport Lawyers Program, which has been reactivated now due to the World Cup. Can you remind us what that organization does and what you've been up to since the World Cup started?
Yes. Oh, this is very interesting. So if people may remember the first travel ban that we had in January 2017, when that happened, it took about a week for me and my co-founders to come together and say, how are we going to get help to the stranded passengers at the airports? And we had very quickly put together a web portal for immigrants and passengers of all kinds, even Americans coming back home who needed help at the airports. And within 2 weeks, we were able to get airport lawyers, it's called airportlawyer.org, that's the website, to 25 airports within 2 weeks. That continued for almost a year because of the various travel bans that we had. And after that, we didn't need it as much. Due to the World Cup and the recent climate, lawyers who had been organizing for about a year, they had been trying to figure out, how do we get lawyers to the airports when a crisis happens and people don't have time? And so we were brought into the project to revive airportlawyer.org. And I'm very proud to say that it went live on Friday, and it allows coordinating lawyers in the 12 host cities to be on standby so that if a passenger needs help at the airport, there'll be triaging coordinators who will then find a lawyer who is competent and understands what needs to happen.
Airportlawyer.org. Tahmina Watson, who is the founding immigration attorney with Watson Immigration Law in Seattle. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org or on your favorite podcast app.